Good afternoon. We are now going to have our presentation. I'm Winki.
I'm Chen Chetu Aaron.
I'm Limonghua Evelyn.
I'm Shichen Sharon.
I'm Musing Kathy.
So I'll first talk about some background information of our unit plan. The theme of our unit is having fun in Hong Kong, and through this unit we hope that students would have better understanding about the places in Hong Kong we live. And then for the size and level of the students, we hope to teach 30 primary 4 students, and for each lesson it will be conducted in 40 minutes, and in a total there will be 5 lessons. Then for the previous knowledge of the students, we expect the students know how to use past tense and present tense, and then they would be able to use the sentence structure, like the attraction is located in somewhere in Hong Kong, and then lastly they would be able to use some adjectives to describe the places in Hong Kong, just like they are beautiful and they are attractive.
So for the learning objectives of these lessons, a student will be able to use different sentence structure for stating and asking for events that happen in the future, and they can distinguish attractions in Hong Kong. And because we will teach some attractions of Hong Kong and in the lessons, and the third objective is to distinguish the text type between itinerary, diary entry, letter, and email, no diary entry. And the fourth objective is to develop language and generic skills throughout the activities in the lesson. And the last one is to develop positive values through different discussion and appreciation in class. So we will now talk about the lesson 1, which is designed by me. I'm Aaron. So basically, the lesson involves different reading activities. There are pre-reading activity, reading activity, and post-reading activities. And in the reading activity, they involve collaboration, which can enhance the two students' generic skills, which is one of the strengths. And it also includes some pre and post-reading activities, which is emphasized to be a step-by-step activity to provide opportunities for feedbacks in the post-reading activities, as the teacher will ask for students if there are any difficulties while reading the passage in the lesson. So another strength is that the lesson also includes a wide range of language skills that can be trained. So for the first one is reading, speaking, and listening. So I will now talk about the weaknesses of the lesson. So I think that my lesson can involve writing activities throughout the activities in the lesson, so that they can be trained not only reading or speaking, and because they will also learn the words in the reading and listening activities to pronounce the keywords in the lesson. So I think that they can make use of the keywords and to have a writing activities to know how to make use of the sentence structure along with the keywords that are taught in the lesson. So another weakness is that I think a formal assessment is lacked in the lesson. So about the other reflection of the lesson, I think that more adaptations will be introduced throughout the lesson, and maybe some exercises or writing activities, because there are some sort of formal assessment. My lesson has only informal assessment, so I think formal assessment will definitely help to assess the students' learning ability. So another thing is that my lesson lacks for a cater for learners' diversity, because some keywords might be a bit difficult for learners with a weaker standard. So I think that a section for cater learner diversity is definitely needed. And an introduction of the topic is also lacked to arouse the interest of students, such as I can introduce some places in Hong Kong and ask the students whether they have been there or whether they want to go there, so to arouse their interest rather than just introducing the passage just like now. So the last thing is that a little amount of generic skills were trained other than collaboration. I think that critical thinking and self-learning can also be trained by asking them different questions about their daily life and the topics related to their experience.
Hi, I'm Sharon and I designed the lesson 2, and the aim of lesson 2 is to teach students some short phrases about the activities in the attraction, like watching a show or taking picture. And they also need to learn what should be included while introducing an attraction. And as for the teaching flow, the lesson will begin with pre-task brainstorm to activate the background knowledge of the student. Then to the wild task, the student would learn from the activities. Then finally, extended presentation will be included in the lesson to create an opportunity for students to talk in a communicative context. And the first strength of the lesson is catering for diversity. When the teacher arranges the group, the teacher will arrange weak students and strong students into a group so that strong students can help each other and learn to offer help. And as for weak students, they can learn from the advanced student and develop self-esteem by fulfill some relatively easier job in the group. And while completing the task, the teacher will help weak and inattentive students by breaking the task into small steps. So this can ensure all the students can learn from the task and all the students are on task. And the second is, in the extended presentation, the teacher also provide a clear criteria and some explanation for the student so that the student can learn what are expected in the presentation. And the teacher also provide a picture as example for the student to learn and imitate. And because in the presentation, the student need to visit some attraction to gain information. So before the student visit the attraction, the teacher try to teach students to be kind to and respect to each other. The student also need to learn to obey the rule. So exactly, in addition to subject knowledge, the student also learn some moral and civic education. And compared with the original textbook, we have some adaptation. We have add some activity to the in the class to develop the general skills of the students. We have add matching activity presentation in the class, and especially for the presentation, because the student need to travel into the real world, so the student can learn from the authentic real world and put the knowledge into practice. As for the weakness, we think in the lesson we are lack of the practice in pairs. The student only listen and read the target structure in the activities. The student need more opportunities to practice and learn to the target structure. So in the future, I think more communicative opportunities should be included in the lesson for students to speak and use the target language.
And then I'm Winki and I designed lesson 3. And for lesson 3, it is basically a grammar lesson that helps students to review their knowledge of tenses and teaching them future tense. And it is aimed that students would understand how to use future tense and then to improve their oral skills through group discussions and presentation. And then it is also important for them to distinguish what time to use what tense appropriately. And then other than these language skills, they will also learn how to communicate with their group mates. And then also they can learn how to plan their day with the timeline. So for the first part of the lesson, it is the lead-in part that teaching students what is future tense. In this task, a baby would be given for the students for the group discussion, and then in this task the collaboration skills of students can be trained that through the group discussions they can discover different abilities of their group mates, as the group is formed with 5 students with maybe different strengths and weaknesses. And then also with the topic that is related to our daily life, that the students need to talk about how the baby grow up when they study in primary school and then in their work, also in their career. It helps them to develop their creativity, and then just because this is a topic more related to daily life, they would be more willing to speak in a more relaxed way. And then for the second task, it is that students are taught with a timeline of how to use future tense, and then in this task, their writing and speaking skills can be trained. That before they share their timeline with their neighbor, they will need to write on their own timeline and design and plan what to do in a day. And then after the writing section, they will pair up with their neighbor, and then they will discuss and then speak and then use future tense to share on their timeline. And then lastly, for the improvement, it is of the exercise of tenses. I think it can't cater for the learner diversity, as there is only one set of worksheet but in the class there may be students of more able and less able. To improve this, I think maybe 2 sets of worksheet can be prepared. One is for the less able students, just like some maybe with less language ability and they cannot distinguish when to use what tenses. So for this group of students, a worksheet of dividing different parts of tenses, just like present tense, past tense, and future tense, can be designed for them. And then for the more able students, another set of worksheet can be designed for them, just like having a paragraph of words that they will need to distinguish when to use what tense.
So I'm Evelyn, and I designed the lesson 4. The final product is an email that written by the students in future tense to introduce some attractions in Hong Kong to their friends. So in reading, it is divided into 3 parts, including pre-reading, while reading, and post-reading. Pre-reading provides background knowledge about the text and ensure the students know the main content of the text. The students will be informed what the task is about. This is also a task-based guide. In while reading, teacher will provide extra help for less able students who have trouble in understanding the text. This is a strategy of supported reading. With the support from the teacher, the less able students can have a better understanding of the text and their reading skills can be enhanced. This enables the teacher to cater for student diversity. So in the last part of reading, when the students finish reading the text, they will be asked some questions about the text, in which way the teacher can evaluate to what extent they understand the text and provide some feedback for students to improve. So then in the third part of the lesson plan, the students are required to compare the different formats of the text. They need to analyze and find at least 2 differences within the texts. And in the 5th part, they need to conduct a peer evaluation. Through these 2 activities, the students can apply their prerequisite knowledge and their ability of critical thinking is developed, because they need to find the advantages and disadvantages in their group mates' work. And what's more, before the evaluation, they need to listen to others carefully, in which way their listening skills is developed. So in the original textbook, the final task is about writing a letter to invite their friends to Hong Kong, but the instructions are stated vaguely. Therefore, I adapted this task into writing an email in future tense to introduce some attractions in Hong Kong to their friends. In this way, they can apply the prerequisite knowledge, the use of future tense, into the task. In terms of improvement, I think more teaching strategies of catering for student diversity is needed. Teacher can provide alternative and multiple tasks for students, and the advanced students can choose the more challenging tasks, and the less able students can choose the ones that are suitable for them. the assessment rubrics should be used to assess their progress instead of their scores. It motivates the less able students to engage more in the class and makes the teaching more effective.
Hi, I'm Kathy, and this is lesson 5. And in this lesson, after this lesson, students will be acknowledge some language skills, including reading, speaking, and listening, as well as generic skills like people thinking and collaboration. And for pre-class session, a class discussion will be put forward to motivate students and also broaden their horizons. And students are required to present the traveling plan of the selected attraction in groups for the wild task part. And when it comes to the host task, students should ask questions about the other group's presentation, and a peer evaluation is compulsory for each student. And here is my evaluation. The strength is mainly focused on an out-of-classroom task for connecting the real world, because students should go to the real place, take photos, and do the plan before completing their presentation. And what's more, the peer evaluation of the speaking task aims to cultivate students' critical thinking skill. Besides, they can learn from each other and review what they have learned about grammar, vocabulary, and organization. However, some weaknesses can be recognized in this lesson. For example, less consideration on catering for learner diversity, and moreover, not enough guidance for students in this lesson, especially in the evaluation part, since our target students are just in P4, and maybe the independent evaluation will be a little bit difficult for them. And compare with the textbook, we add the presentation to the unit, which means that children should make their own traveling plan and introducing the local culture to the classmates. And in this way, it can stimulate students' learning interest. And moreover, the peer evaluation part can encourage children to listen to others carefully, learn from each other, and review their learned knowledge. So some changes or improvements can be considered. First of all, separate the advanced students, normal students, and backward students into different groups for the purpose to provide them a chance to help with each other, and those backward students will not be left alone. And secondly, different questions can set for students with various levels. It is worth mentioning that these 2 points are set for achieving the purpose of catering for learner diversity. And lastly, more guidance from the teacher will be added to the lesson by giving some guiding question like what other vocabulary can you think to describe this attraction.
To conclude, in the lesson plan, unit plan, we have put our creativity into reality, and we learn from each other and learn to cater the diversity of the students. What more, we learn from the mistake and the opinion from the peers and tutor to supervise our lesson plan. Finally, we come to realize the importance of collaboration and cohere the content of the lessons. This is the end of our presentation, and thank you for listening.